She thought she found her dream billionaire online, until the luxury lifestyle unraveled into a shocking digital love scam. Behind yachts, jets, and romance lies a fake billionaire who built an empire of lies. This is the truth behind the scam. A perfect love story with a wealthy man turned into betrayal. Secrets of a fake billionaire's digital romance revealed. From luxury promises to heartbreak, discover how one woman exposed the fake billionaire love scam that fooled many. Ethan Wallace lived in the kind of online world that blurred the line between truth and illusion. On social media, his name carried the weight of fortune and allure. His accounts were filled with glossy photos of luxury yachts cutting through turquoise waters, private jets waiting on sun-drenched runways, and five-star dinners plated like art. To the casual viewer, Ethan wasn't just a man, he was the embodiment of wealth, the dream boyfriend every romance fantasy hinged upon, a billionaire whose life promised endless possibilities. But in reality, Ethan Wallace was nothing more than a carefully curated mirage. He was a master of digital deception, a man who had learned how to craft a billionaire persona out of stolen images, manipulated videos, and just enough charisma to make it believable. For Ethan, luxury wasn't something he owned. It was something he borrowed, projected, and sold to anyone willing to believe. The story began with a chance encounter, though chance was always calculated in Ethan's world. Claire Dawson, a bright young woman in her late 20s, scrolling through her phone after another long shift at the marketing agency, stumbled across Ethan's profile on a dating app designed for ambitious professionals. His photos were striking, handsome yet approachable, with that dangerous mix of confidence and warmth. One picture showed him standing in front of a sleek black car, another had him raising a glass of champagne on the deck of a yacht, and another captured him at sunset on a rooftop, the city lights glowing like jewels behind him. But it wasn't just the visuals that hooked Claire, it was the way Ethan's words made her feel. His first message wasn't a shallow compliment, it was thoughtful, tailored. "Do you ever feel like the city moves too fast to breathe?" he asked. Claire had laughed, surprised, typing back that yes, sometimes she did. From there, the conversation flowed effortlessly. Ethan had a way of making her feel seen, as if he wasn't just another wealthy man flaunting privilege, but someone who understood the loneliness tucked beneath ambition. What Claire didn't know was that Ethan studied his targets like case files. Before sending a single message, he scanned her social media, her work history, her favorite books, even the style of quotes she liked to repost. Every word he sent was designed to mirror her, to make her believe destiny had woven their paths together. And slowly, she began to believe. In the weeks that followed, their relationship bloomed digitally. He sent voice notes that carried the perfect mix of confidence and tenderness, video calls that always seemed to take place in lavish hotel rooms with skyline views, and photos that arrived at just the right moment. A coffee cup beside his MacBook, a silk tie draped over a polished wood desk, his reflection in a penthouse mirror. For Claire, the image of Ethan Wallace was intoxicating. Friends noticed her glow. She smiled more often, her voice lighter when she spoke of him. She described him as a man who had built an empire yet remained grounded, a billionaire who valued simplicity when the cameras weren't around. She loved telling the story of how he once confessed he preferred home-cooked meals over Michelin-starred ones, or how he claimed his favorite childhood memory was helping his grandmother in the garden. It was all so vivid, so carefully painted in her mind that doubt rarely entered her thoughts. But behind Ethan's screen, the truth was far from glamorous. His penthouse view was nothing more than a rented Airbnb for the weekend, staged for photos he would recycle endlessly. The car in his posts belonged to a friend who ran a luxury rental business. Even his tailored suits were borrowed, photographed in dressing rooms before being carefully returned. Ethan wasn't rich in money, he was rich in manipulation. And the empire he built wasn't of steel and glass. It was of lies and illusions. The longer the charade continued, the deeper Claire fell. He spoke of a future together, painting pictures of a life where she wouldn't have to worry about bills or overbearing bosses, where they could travel freely, wake up on beaches, and watch the world pass from the windows of private jets. He promised her security, passion, and partnership. And though Claire was cautious by nature, Ethan knew exactly how to lower her defenses. He didn't rush into asking for money. He let trust simmer, nurtured it until it became unshakable. When the first request came, it was cloaked in vulnerability. Ethan called her late at night, his voice softer than usual. He told her about a sudden legal complication with one of his companies, how he couldn't access certain accounts abroad due to banking restrictions, and how embarrassed he was to even ask. "I hate putting you in this position," he whispered, "but you're the only person I trust." The amount he requested wasn't outrageous, just a few $1,000s, framed as a temporary fix until his team could resolve the matter. Claire hesitated, her mind spinning, but Ethan's carefully woven charm overrode her doubts. She transferred the money. What followed was a spiral of escalating requests. Each time, the circumstances were different. A frozen account, a business partner who betrayed him, an emergency with staff payroll. Each time, Ethan promised repayment with interest, insisting it was only a temporary inconvenience. And each time, Claire convinced herself this was part of being in love with someone extraordinary, part of building a life together. What she couldn't see was that Claire was not Ethan's only love. Across the country, in different states, and even across oceans, Ethan spun similar tales to other women. Each of them believed they were the center of his world, the one person he trusted beyond anyone else. In reality, they were financial lifelines keeping his fabricated billionaire lifestyle afloat. Yet, cracks began to appear. A missed detail in a story, a video call that cut out too quickly, a background that didn't quite match the luxury he described. Claire brushed them aside at first, but suspicion crept in like a slow poison. She started asking questions he dodged with charm. She tested him by suggesting they meet sooner rather than later. Ethan always had excuses: business trips, urgent deals, unexpected crises. The more she pressed, the more evasive he became. Still, her heart clung to the dream. After all, love, especially digital romance, thrives on the imagination. The Ethan Wallace she believed in wasn't just a man. He was a symbol of everything she longed for. But illusions never last forever. The story of Ethan Wallace was about to unravel in ways Claire couldn't have imagined. The unraveling of Ethan Wallace's empire of illusion began not with a dramatic confession or a sudden confrontation, but with a quiet seed of doubt that grew inside Claire's mind. After weeks of waiting for Ethan to keep his promise to fly her out to Monaco, she noticed something peculiar. He sent her another picture of himself standing in front of a villa, but this time, when she zoomed in, the same man appeared twice, once in the foreground and once, faintly, in a reflection on a window. The realization chilled her. It was a badly edited image, and she knew for the first time that perhaps what she was seeing wasn't real. Still, emotions make us want to believe more than logic wants us to doubt. Claire found herself making excuses on Ethan's behalf. Maybe it was just a glitch, a bad filter, or something innocent. Yet the unease stayed with her, nagging louder each time. Ethan dodged a question or cut short a video call. She noticed how he always found reasons to turn his camera toward the window, the skyline, the ocean view, but never quite let her see him in a casual, unpolished setting. He was always too curated, too perfect, and perfection, she realized, was its own kind of red flag. Determined to silence the voice of doubt, she decided to do her own digging. Claire was no detective, but she knew her way around search engines. One night, after a particularly vague conversation with Ethan, she took one of the photos he had sent her, a sharp image of him sipping espresso on a balcony, and ran it through a reverse image search. What came back made her heart pound. The same picture appeared on a luxury lifestyle blog, dated 3 years earlier, credited to a completely different man. Her chest tightened. She tried another photo, then another. Each time, the results confirmed her worst fear. Ethan's entire billionaire persona was stitched together from other people's lives. The next day, Claire didn't confront him directly. She tested him instead. She asked casually about his supposed villa in Barcelona, one he had described in detail just weeks earlier. Ethan didn't hesitate to elaborate on the story, weaving details about its marble floors and private pool. But when she mentioned that she had seen the villa listed on a real estate website for sale under someone else's name, there was silence on the line. Then Ethan laughed it off, saying, "You must have seen a different one. Mine is private, completely off the market." His smooth deflection almost made her believe again, but now she had proof. And proof changes everything. Claire confided in her best friend, Jessica, who listened with wide-eyed disbelief. Jessica was blunt. "Claire, you're being scammed. This guy is using you. None of this is real." Claire resisted at first, her heart torn between logic and love. But Jessica pressed harder, urging her to check her financial transfers, to look at how much she had already sent him. When Claire opened her banking app and tallied the numbers, her stomach sank. Over the course of 4 months, she had transferred more than $40,000. The reality hit her like a tidal wave. Anger began to replace heartbreak. Claire wasn't just a victim of a fake romance. She had been drawn into a digital con crafted by a man who preyed on emotions as skillfully as an artist paints on canvas. She decided it was time to fight back. The first step was information. Claire began joining online forums and reading articles about romance scams. She was shocked to discover how common they were, especially those involving so-called billionaires who promised love and luxury but delivered only empty bank accounts and broken hearts. Stories poured in from women around the world who had fallen for similar lies. The patterns were almost identical: lavish photos, late-night confessions, urgent financial requests, and endless promises of a future together. Ethan Wallace, it seemed, was not unique. He was part of an entire underground industry of digital romance fraud. Claire reached out to a non-profit group that specialized in helping victims of online scams. With their guidance, she began to gather every message, photo, and transaction record she had shared with Ethan. The deeper she dug, the clearer the picture became. Ethan wasn't working alone. Bank accounts led to shell companies, voice notes carried accents that didn't quite match his claimed background, and the phone number he used was registered to a burner service that could disappear in an instant. The group connected her with other women who had been in contact with Ethan, or someone using his images and identity. One woman in Florida described how he had claimed to be stuck in Switzerland with a frozen bank account. Another in California said he promised to marry her as soon as a major deal closed. A third in London had wired him money for emergency surgery after he claimed to have been injured in a skiing accident. Each woman had believed she was the one. Each had given money. Each had been left with nothing but shame. Together, these women formed an alliance. They shared stories, evidence, and strategies. What began as private heartbreaks became a collective mission to expose Ethan Wallace and put an end to his scams. Claire became the voice of the group, using her marketing skills to compile a detailed dossier of his tactics. She mapped out the fake identities, the borrowed photos, and even the language patterns he used to manipulate emotions. Eventually, the evidence was strong enough to take to law enforcement. At first, authorities were skeptical. Online romance scams were difficult to track, especially when perpetrators operated across borders. But as more victims came forward, the scale of Ethan's scheme became undeniable. He wasn't just a lone con artist. He was part of a network that specialized in constructing fake billionaire personas to lure targets. The investigation took months, and Claire often felt consumed by the weight of it. There were nights when she lay awake replaying every conversation with Ethan, wondering how she could have been so blind. But instead of drowning in regret, she channeled her emotions into resolve. She refused to let Ethan's lies define her. When the breakthrough finally came, it was both shocking and vindicating. Investigators traced Ethan's online activity to a modest apartment in a quiet suburban neighborhood, not to a penthouse or private island, but to a rented space cluttered with laptops, prepaid phones, and stacks of scripts used for conversations with victims. Ethan Wallace was not a billionaire. He wasn't even Ethan Wallace. His real name was Daniel Marks, a 34-year-old with a history of fraud charges. He had reinvented himself online as a billionaire because it was the perfect mask for exploitation. The arrest made headlines. News outlets called it the Billionaire Love Scam, highlighting how Daniel had manipulated dozens of women worldwide into financing his lifestyle. Photos of his humble apartment, starkly contrasting with the glamorous images he posted online, became a viral symbol of the illusion he had created. For Claire, seeing his face on the news was bittersweet. On one hand, justice was finally being served. On the other, she couldn't ignore the sting of betrayal, the memory of how deeply she had cared for someone who had never truly existed. But she chose not to let the experience break her. Instead, she began speaking publicly about her story, determined to help others avoid the same trap. Claire's journey from victim to advocate turned her into a voice of empowerment. She appeared on podcasts, shared her story at conferences, and even worked with organizations dedicated to digital safety. Her message was clear: online romance can be beautiful, but it can also be dangerous when built on lies. She urged people to look beyond the curated images, to trust instincts when something felt wrong, and to never let love blind them to red flags. The scars of her experience remained, but so did her resilience. In time, Claire healed. She found love again, this time with someone real, someone who didn't need to hide behind borrowed yachts or fabricated stories. The difference was night and day, because honesty, even when imperfect, is worth more than any illusion of perfection. As for Daniel Marks, his sentencing closed the chapter on his fake billionaire persona. But experts warned that others, like him, still operated in the shadows, waiting for the next Claire, the next woman scrolling through her phone, longing for connection. The world of digital romance would always carry both promise and peril. Claire's final words, when interviewed by a major network, struck like lightning. He pretended to be a billionaire, but what he really stole wasn't just money, it was trust. And once trust is gone, it's harder to rebuild than any fortune. Her story became a warning, a lesson, and a beacon of strength for those navigating love in the digital age. Because in a world where images can be stolen and personas manufactured, the greatest luxury is not wealth, it's truth. And that is how the story of the Fake Billionaire Love Scam ends, an immersive tale of luxury illusions, digital romance, deception, and redemption. Backhand index pointing right. If you enjoyed this story and want more real-life secrets revealed through cinematic storytelling, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more eye-opening stories like this to life.